All right. So the trade that I really like right now has to do with ZB. I believe ZB is grossly expensive relative to everything else on the yield curve. And since we have this 20-year bond that is going to come into the market relatively soon, it was yet with yesterday's announcement of containing more details, it let the market know, all right, on this date, the very first auction of these 20-year bonds will start to take place. And the amount was, I believe, 20 billion, and then the following month, 17 billion, and then the following month, another 17 billion. That is in addition to the existing 30-year bonds and 10-year, 7-year, etc. So what is ZB? Ask yourselves that question. What is a ZB contract? What does it follow? It follows a 16 and a half, 17 and a half, 18-year bond, give or take. But there is no such bond with that maturity that gets auctioned. Right? Like, think about it. There is a pool of bonds that were initially auctioned as 30-year bonds, and just about half of their lifetime has passed, and they're approaching, they started out as 30 years, as 30-year bonds, and now they're more like 16-year bonds or 17-year bonds, etc. Well, the ZB contract tracks exactly those bonds. The UB contract tracks the new issuance of 30-year bonds. And that's why UB has been gaining so much open interest over the past few years. So with the introduction of a 20-year bond, there is a very high probability of ZB no longer being a 16.5-year bond, but instead being a 20-year bond. And that this has happened in the past. It's called a cheapest to deliver shift. This topic is a bit advanced, but effectively, come maturity of
hey, Pablo,
go ahead.
Let me just jump in. A little layman's explanation is that like a gold future is backed by gold bullion, right? So the bond future, it's backed by a basket of bonds, not by one, by a basket. And the cheapest one is the one that they use. And what's going to happen now is the cheapest is going to switch. And that's happened a bunch of times throughout my career. And the only time I've made money is if I've gotten lucky, because usually you just get destroyed because you don't know about it. Pablo knows about it. And Pablo's showing us exactly how to find that information. This is so unbelievably powerful, but now we just have to figure out, if we know what the 16's doing right now and we know what the 30's doing, we need to figure out what do we think the 19's or 20's are doing.
The trade that I like in this case is anything that has a short ZB embedded. So what has short ZB? Knob has short ZV, but when I look at its percentile rank, I see that it's at 60. Okay, all right. What about TNZB? Okay, its percentile ranking is a bit lower. So I personally like the idea of buying these spreads. The knob in particular looks like a good purchase, especially if the ZB fly continues rallying as it has today. Notice the inverse effect that it has on these other spreads. The knob sold off. This NCB, which is TN versus ZB, also sold off. The null, not so much. I'm also not going to trade the null, but the null didn't really sell off that much. Our bub here is rallying. So my favorite pick would be bub, should it rally back up, to these levels, right? To its high. If it gets all the way up here around the 16,000 mark or so, I would like to sell bub at that point in time. Likewise, I would like to purchase knob should it come down a bit more. So those are the spreads that I personally like. And what do you know? These two spreads make up the fly. Knob and bub.
Love it. It's clearly off too. I mean, this is just outrageous. What do you think, Pablo, as far as just like a TLT put?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would get a TLT put.
And how far would you think to go out?
I would go out at least until July, mid-July.
Awesome. All right, guys. A lot of people coming back and saying this was an awesome class. Did you guys like this? Definitely wanted to take more of a deep dive into one specific asset class. Is good, guys. Awesome. More and more, I think, to focus these. So for the coaching, we have these Thursday classes and Friday classes. Taking each one of these classes and really doing a deep dive into an asset class. I find it just, I got a ton out of this myself, and I like that I'm sitting here doing the same searches as Pablo's doing, so it becomes a lot more interactive. But I'd be curious as what your thoughts were, when we do these classes and cover 3 different topics and keep bouncing around, or, really just doing a deep dive like this. My preference is definitely this, so curious.
I like the deep dive as well.